Hello, Mount Holyoke Psychology 201 students. Welcome to your tutorial on SPSS syntax. This is your lab instructor, Natasha. Today you will learn a bit about syntax and how it can help you with your final project this semester. So let's use the data set from our very first tutorial. As you remember, when I talked in that first tutorial about the different windows that SPSS has, I mentioned the data window and the output window. There's also something called a syntax window, and we're going to work with that today. So let's say we want to run the same analyses that we did in that initial tutorial video. So we want to look at first the frequencies for location for this variable. Again, this is the data set where a baker was coming in to interested in opening a cupcake shop in South Hadley, and pulled some different Mount Holyoke students about how many cupcakes per week they think they would buy, fair price for their cupcake, and where they might want the cupcake shop to be located. So what we need to do, if we were to run the frequencies on location, is to go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and over to Frequencies, just as we did before. And we'll move location over into the Variables box. This time, instead of hitting OK, we're going to hit Paste. Once you hit Paste, this new window pops up, and this is a window you have not seen before. So this is the syntax window. And I'll minimize the data set just so it's a little more clear. Okay, so what this is language that's telling SPSS what to do to make the variable, or to run the analysis that it would have done if you had just hit OK. So a good idea when you are working with a syntax window, one way to save the work that you are doing is to actually open a Word document and to copy and paste the syntax. So we're going to copy by hitting Control-C, and then we'll paste it by hitting Control-V over in a Word document. What you're going to want to do is to add some stars and say what function it is that you just ran. So in this case, it was frequencies of location. Now, let's say you wanted to run this analysis just using the syntax that you already have on here. Since this is all highlighted, you can push this green arrow button where it says Run Selection, and now the output window will come up and it will show you the frequencies just as it did when you hit OK from that main data set window. So let me close out of this. I'm going to not save it at this point. Let's say that we deleted this here, and now we are going to paste this whole list of what we pasted into Word back into the syntax window. You'll see that anything that you put a star before actually gets grayed out. So that means that the computer won't read that as a command when it's trying to run. So you can still highlight that piece and it won't affect your analysis. Again, you can push that play button and it will give us the frequencies just as it did before. So again, I'll click out of this for now. I'm not going to save the output. And let's say now we wanted to go back into the data window and run the other analysis we did, which was the descriptives on cupcake price, the fair price. So we'll go to Analyze, down to Descriptive Statistics, and to Descriptives. We'll bring the fair price variable over. And again, instead of hitting OK, we'll hit Paste. Now, when we go to the syntax window, we'll see that there's, again, syntax for the descriptives that we just ran. So we'll want to copy and paste, this syntax into your Word document so you have a running record of it. And we want to remind ourselves what this was. So we'll say descriptives for fair price. Okay. And again, I'm going to clear this out just to show you what happens. Now, if we cut this entire all of this language over into the syntax window. Again, anything you start is grayed out, so you can highlight everything and hit the green button. And now it'll show us the frequencies and also the descriptives for the fair price. So it's really doing the same thing as hitting OK, but the benefit of it is that in your syntax window, you can see everything that you've done to the data. So it's not just that you have, like let's say for your lab assignment, you cut and paste this table. You don't necessarily remember what variables you used or what you pushed to get to here. When you save the syntax, you can just cut and paste and you'll be exactly where you were. You'll be able to figure out what you pushed and if you played around with the data at all. So the way that this will help, and you can also actually save if you wanted to, instead of or in addition to saving the Word file, if you want to save the syntax window itself, you can just hit save as, and this time the extension instead of a SPV or SAV is a .sps. So that's another way you can save it, but you don't have to save this if you the syntax file if you just save the Word document. That's fine. But so keeping a file, it's kind of like a running log of everything you've done during the semester. When you start working on with your final project data, if your group keeps a log, it'll be really helpful because it will help you recreate all the analyses you have worked on all throughout the semester. And if you're working with what Professor Tawa calls funky data, and you make an error while doing, let's say, a data transformation, by looking at your syntax, your instructors will be able to easily identify where the error was made and assist you with correcting that error. More so than if all we see is the tables from your output. We might not know if you did something differently, if you entered a wrong variable when you were transforming the data or switched a number, something like that. So in future lab reports, when you are asked to copy and paste tables from your output file, you will also be asked to copy your syntax into your lab report. So that's just going to mean copying and pasting this for each analysis you run that you're asked for in your lab report. And that's just so you get into the practice of using syntax. Right now, there are many discussions of how using syntax is the direction of how this field is moving. It's in order to keep science transparent and to be more replicable and reproducible. So hopefully you will find that this will be a useful skill to start acquiring. It will help you with other programs such as R, which is a free program in case you don't have access, you don't want to buy SPSS in the future. R uses syntax, so it's a good way to start practicing using syntax and becoming a little bit familiar with what this language means. So that's a brief introduction to syntax, and just remember, don't be mean, be above average.